welcome back to our first episode of Roseate Speaks in 2021. We're very excited for this episode. Our guest today is from the hospitality industry, who's actually gone ahead and started his own venture because of his fascination for tigers, which we will, of course, talk about later on during the session. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Sharad Vats, author, entrepreneur, and ex-hotelier, who will be our guest speaker for today. Welcome again, Mr. Vats.
Thank you, Ranjita.
Most welcome. And to our audience, we'll be addressing all your questions towards the end, like how we do in each session. So if you have any before or during the session, please feel free to type it in the chat box below at the bottom of your screen. So Mr. Vats, over to you. We'll start with your initial journey first. Now, you studied hotel school and got into a leading luxury hotel in the operations department. So please tell us a bit more about that, because we have a mixed audience. We have a lot of hoteliers, budding entrepreneurs, and they would love to hear from you.
Right. Thank you, Monica.
Ranjita, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Ranjita. My apologies. Good to be here. And yeah, my initial journey started way back in the previous century. Sounds old. In 1989, when I joined this leading hotel group in Delhi. I wanted food and beverage department and I was given front office. So it all started on a back foot for me. I did not know how, what, when, but they thought that I was more appropriate for front office. So they got me there. So for me, it was like beginning ground zero. I've been having not much of experience when it came to front office. So I saw it as glass empty and started to work my way through. And yeah, I mean, there is absolutely no substitute for hard work and knowledge. That's what I've learned over the years. Talent is pretty common and so is genius, but it's all about hard work and persistence, which will take you up the ladder of success. Whether you are in a corporate organization or if you are working for yourself or you're an entrepreneur. So it all started with this leading hotel group. I started off in front office in 1989, worked hard, worked long hours and continued that. And in between, in fact, it was in the second year of my being in hotels when I went for my first safari and I saw my first tiger. That changed it all. I couldn't sleep that night. I mean, that whole sighting kept on rewinding in my mind again and again and again. And it was practically a sleepless night. And got back to hotels and still thinking about that. And then 6 months down the line, I again went for another safari and then another safari after 6 months. And gradually these trips to the national park started to increase with me. I was still working hard with the hotels, very hard. That's what I was professionally qualified for. And I loved my job. I still love it. And I think being a hotelier is a great thing because you can do so much more. So as and how the work was happening and I was working at the TAJ Group of hotels, I continued to work. And my interest, which initially was, just about one sighting and then few more sightings. And then I started to make a connect with nature. I would be honest, I mean, connect with nature wasn't at the first sight. With tiger, yes, I mean, it definitely clicked that here is something that I would really want to know more of and see if I can contribute. But it was over a period of few years that I started to think as to what is it that I can do. And then I was reading about tigers. I was getting to know more about the national parks. I was meeting people. I was very fortunate at that point in time that, within the TAJ Group, I had a super senior, who I would say is a wildlife expert. Some of you would have heard his name, Divya Bhanu Singh Chavda, Mr. Chavda, or Mr. DSC as we used to call him. And I would go back to him and I would start interacting with him and put forward my questions and he would answer. And that kind of really grew my interest into a passion, and that passion which started to take me toward as to what's it that I can do for the tigers and how can I take the species forward. So coming back while I was still working at the Taj, and as I said, there is no substitute to hard work. And I was working long hours, pretty long hours, to an extent that, initially when you begin, you're assigned a shift, those weekly shifts that you have, then after a week, your shift changes and all that. But I was giving in practically twice the time that I was asked for. In today's time, if you hear Elon Musk and when he says that you must put in 120 hours a week, precisely that's what I was doing, a couple of decades back with the hotels. and with a lot of love, not that, I was pushed into it or somebody asked me to do it. So it all starts that if you love what you're doing, you will really enjoy it. So how does one grow when you are in a corporate ladder? Very simple. You start training your juniors, and that's what I started to do. You have to make yourself dispensable. If you're working in an organization, train your juniors to take up your job. So certain people might feel insecure as to, if somebody else is doing my job, what do I do? Simple. You do your senior's job. So you need to learn as to what your senior is doing, and you gradually go up the ladder. And that is exactly what happened with me. And once I became the departmental head of this big hotel in New Delhi, um, I thought to myself as to what now. Next option would be, obviously, they would make me a resident manager, they would make me a general manager, and then this and then that. But my heart was, growing with the tigers and growing into the national parks. And then it was in the year 2000 that I started my company called Nature Safari. I wanted to do something in wildlife and wanted to mix my wildlife and my profession together. So I started initially by marketing some wildlife resorts of some friends. So it was resorts, hotels, kind of still I belonged. And then I helped some friends to set up some lodges in the national parks. And it was much later, not much later, just a few years down the line, that I thought of setting up my own lodge, and I set up my own wildlife resort in Kanha National Park in India. So yeah, journeying with the corporate group for 11 years, where I learned a lot. And ever since I quit, I've been working with nature, with tigers, and with a lot of satisfaction.
So that takes me to the next question, Mr. Vats. Tell us more about this venture, about starting a lodge
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
wildlife.
Correct. So when I was still with the Taj, and I was thinking as to what is it that I can do to save the tigers, and I realized, after doing a lot of homework, that tigers were plagued with three problems. One was loss of habitat, second was poaching, and third was there wasn't any economy in the area. So there is nothing that I could have done at that point in time when it came to poaching or stopping the habitat degradation. So I thought, yes, I can perhaps play a role when it comes to economy in the area. And that's where I thought tourism just fits in the bill, because one tourist generates employment for about 11 people. And I realized, those locals in these remote national parks did not have money. They had land, but again, electricity or water, just about one crop in a year. So that wasn't really enough. And they were dependent on the forest for the biomass. So I thought, what is it that I can do so that their dependence on the forest reduces? And once they start to get money through tourism, and they would realize this is happening because of the national parks, they would care to conserve. And that's what exactly happened. And because what tourism doesn't, we all know it, it's instant cash. And it's just not employing certain people in the area, but their families. And if you open a wildlife lodge, there are a lot of vendors, there are transporters, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a huge chain that benefits. So that's what I actually got into initially. And then finally, after I had helped set up some lodges for my friends, I thought it's time that I do something for myself. And I set up a lodge in Kanha National Park, which is very different. I would say now that it was ahead of its time at that point in time. And it did very well for good 11 years before I decided that, I need to move on and onwards. So the lodge I sold off in 2015-16, but subsequently what was also happening was this Nature Safari came into inbound wildlife tourism. People coming in from abroad who had interest in tigers and Indian wildlife, Indian flora and fauna, decided to contact us. And it was all purely online contacts, no B2B, just B2C direct. And I'm talking, 17, 18 years back when B2C direct was very tough. So I can say very proudly today that we were the pioneers or the first when it came to doing online marketing for wildlife tourism. These hotels.com, Agoda, bookings.com, etc. have come much, much later. They have just come about in last 1 decade. We started about 2 decades back, So yeah, that's how the journey has been. And inbound tourism was going extremely strong till the time we all got hit by pandemic. But I think it's just a matter of time before we all get back.
No, of course. And who is your audience, Mr. Vats, and how because you said you've done a lot of online marketing before all
Yeah.
of this. So how did you reach out to them the traditional way as well? Because those days not everyone had access, to computers. I'm talking about 2 decades ago in India, especially.
Yeah.
They were not so
Yeah.
acquainted, and they used to go to cyber cafes. I think that those were the times
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. Absolutely.
cyber cafes and
Yes.
pick out
Yes,
meals.
I mean, yeah. Those are the challenges that we all faced, and but we all got paid off. It's like today, if you look at Amazon, when it started selling books in '96, not very many people were buying books at that point in time. But gradually, over a period of time, now, where do you see the bookstores? Hardly. I mean, they've reduced by 90%. Everybody's buying books online, including me. So same thing. I mean, we started off early. Our audience was direct and people from across the world. Yes, I was also doing for people within India who were, some friends who wanted to visit. But my focus was that, I want to make the world aware of what tiger conservation is all about. You know, and so people started to come. We in 2005 and six we got nominated, not nominated. We were judged as the best wildlife operator by BBC, and without a knowledge, without participating anywhere, without doing anything. I mean, just one fine day I just receive a mail from them, and I think you are the best wildlife operator in India. So that was quite a shocker, but a very pleasant shocker. So it has been totally online. We've not gone the traditional way. You will never see us in any of the travel marts or internationally or nationally. So purely online, it was very slow initially to begin with. Not many, you are right, not many people had the things, the networks or the mobiles and all that. But over a period of time, because we started at the right time, we got the advantage for it. And today we sit at a decent place, at a nice place in online marketing, in online wildlife space.
And any of these particular geographies that you want to tell us about, like whether was it Americas or the Asiatic region, or who do you think really were interested in coming to India and exploring
Well,
about?
um, 50% or more than 50% is from UK and US.
Mm.
Right. It started off with UK initially because it's UK which actually started the safaris way back in the previous century, but gradually US came up and a part of Europe also started to come. So right now we get people from practically all over the world, you know. People think that, China doesn't appreciate wildlife. Well, they do. We do get certain clients who want to do and come, want to do just wildlife photography. So every country, there is a segment. It's just that you have to reach out to them. And if you are at the right place with the right content uh, on the net, people will find you. You need to know how will they reach you. So way back then, I had a battery of websites, 15 websites, all on wildlife. And I, at that point in time, looked at the various keywords that somebody would actually search for on the net. Suppose somebody wants to see tigers in India, so somebody would type in tiger safaris in India, or snow leopards in India, or elephant safari in India, or rhino in India, or India bird watching. I got all those domains at that point in time, made websites on that, and yeah, that's how it started. So
You
purely
know,
online and word of mouth. And word of mouth. And
I have
wildlife is one space. Wildlife is one space. Sorry to interrupt. Is one space where you get repeat business. And the way wildlife has grown, I think I've shared this with Kush in the past. While the regular culture tourism, I think, grows at 4 to 5% a year, wildlife has grown over 15% a year. And every setback for wildlife eventually has benefited wildlife. I'll give you an example. 2012, Supreme Court put a clamp down on all the national parks. No safaris in the national parks. National parks will not open for any human activity. We were all hit. We were all hit very badly. Nobody knew about it, but suddenly it started to come in the newspapers. And we all filed a petition and we all got together, got our act together and started to represent. And the case was in Supreme Court. It took us about a few months to win the case. Finally, it was opened. So whoever had not heard about wildlife tourism in 2012 heard about it. So at times, as I say, no, the bad news is also good news. At least it's news. So wildlife tourism came up, and we started to do well. So yeah, I mean, it's been a wonderful journey so far.
so you've already mentioned your focus was conservation through tourism
Yeah.
when you started your lodge. Now, apart from, you know, the endeavors that you just mentioned, obviously you wanted to stop the poaching, you know, and conserve their habitat. Did you see a change in the you know, the numbers of poaching, like the poachers, and you know, the greenery, the afforestation, and all these areas of concern being addressed? Do you think because the money pumped in, did that help? Did you see that grow in
Absolutely.
numbers that
Uh,
you want to share, like that support that?
yes, drastic improvement in numbers. A lot of people might not admit it, but tourism has played a massive role when it comes to conservation. Uh, in 2006, we all know there was a huge campaign run by NDTV, 1410 left.
Yes.
All right. Today, as per the last census, which was in 2018, it's 2,950 tigers in the wild. So we've doubled. I wouldn't say we have doubled. It's been a very collaborative effort. Government has obviously taken the lead. There have been a lot of NGOs who have actually played a role in this very selfless role, and so have we. Tourism as an industry. So when the money comes into the area and tourism gives it instant, it's like when you finish a safari, the guide gets his guide fee straight away. If the guest is happy, he would get tip as well. Same goes for the drivers. And same goes when a guest checks out after 3 nights, 4 nights, he would leave some tip for the staff there and all that. So the locals start to get a lot of, not a lot of, but yes, they start to get more money. So if they were dependent on the forest, and if some, so, forest was not only for their own biomass, but if somebody needed more money, it was that person became very easy for any poacher to say, okay, fine, $100, I need a tiger. So when this guy said, no, I mean, why? I'm actually getting more than $100 on a regular basis, which is quite risk-free. And poaching reduced considerably, because when surrounding people have money, why do they want to risk their lives by going into the forest, which has tigers, which has elephants, and risk their life? So they say, okay, fine, it is possible to pick up fruit outside. Why should I go inside to collect jamun? It is possible to get medicines from the nearby town. Why should I go in to get some roots and shoots and all that? So yes, tourism has played a wonderful role. I mean, it is a double-edged sword for sure. So you need to do it very rightly. If tourism is not right, you'll mess it up. And one can see in certain parks, in certain places, the balance has got disrupted.
And you know, you're mentioning about a lot of support from NGOs and the government, but did you face a lot of hindrances, because supposedly there are you know, many in terms of laws, regulations, and red tapeism, especially in our country. So did you face any kind of such challenge that you want to maybe talk about? Because in the initial stage, of course, it's difficult to be heard, and you know, with the efforts that you made, you want to share that?
Absolutely. Uh, being an entrepreneur is like chewing glass. Not easy, definitely not easy. But if your intent is right, and uh, you proceed in the right way, you will have obstacles, but you would know how to go around them, go over them without hurting anyone else. Yes, there are certain issues that come, but we can address most of them. I was perhaps fortunate not to encounter too many, but I think one should see if there is something that's hurting you, it is for your benefit. And that's how I started to see, well, this obstacle is trying to teach me something. What do I learn out of it? How do I modify my approach? How do I make my or express myself better to make myself understood? So it worked. Yes, I've been red tapeism or bureaucracy hurdles. It's a part and parcel of every business. Not only being an entrepreneur, if you're a huge organization, and bigger the organization, bigger the hurdles. As simple as that. So when you start small, there are smaller ones, but those small look very big. You have to hold on. You have to have faith in your passion. You have to be persistent with your hard work. It will go. It's as simple as that. As they say, every cloud has a silver lining. So a lot of learning when you take this ladder. And I think everybody at some point in time must try being an entrepreneur, or at least do something. Need not be on any massive scale or whatever, but something that you say, yeah, this is mine. Yeah.
And you know, why did you start with Kanha? I was, you know, like you just said about the campaign. If you remember, there are only a few left, and you know, 1,000 left, and so on. We remember those campaigners as well when they spoke on NDTV. And you know, we have Sariska when they said there was 0 tigers left in
Yep.
Sariska. And if you
True.
remember, there was a time
Yes.
And then, we have Ranthambore, of course, which still had a few tigers left, but they were hard to be seen. Sundarbans, of course, then there's Corbett. Why did you decide on Kanha, and why not any other, tiger reserve or a park that came? Why did it not strike you? Whether should I maybe just go to Sariska or maybe Corbett because they've got dwindling numbers? Any particular
Good
reason?
question.
Because you're
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Delhi,
of course,
and
of
that
course, of course.
also
Absolutely. I
plays.
mean, before I put up my lodge, I had already done safaris for 15 years in the various national parks.
Mhm.
And north, south, east, west, practically everything. But somehow Kanha got my attention for the kind of forest it is. Not very many people had known about it. And there are different sides of every park. So the side that I chose did not have too many hotels also at that point in time. And it is even today absolutely pristine and beautifully maintained. The tall sal forest. Uh, it beckons you. I mean, you do one safari in the Mukki zone of Kanha National Park, you will go back to that place again and again. And the people around in that area are so very nice. In fact, in most of the national parks, people around are very simple and nice, but Kanha is surrounded with tribals. Very easy to go, happy-go-lucky kind of people. And that's what I really loved. Simple people, beautiful forest. Let's try and do something here. So that's how, and everybody had known about Ranthambore, everybody had known about Sariska, about issues in Panna, Corbett being closer to Delhi, but Kanha was deep inside. I mean, the flights were available only to Nagpur. Jabalpur also did not have an airport. Raipur did not have an airport. This is much, much later. At that point in time, it was only Nagpur, which was about 7 hours of horrendous drive. Today, also, it takes about 5 hours. So it was not easy to reach, but it's such a pretty forest. And experts have also commented that, if the tigers go away, which is not happening right now or in the near future, the last bastions for tiger will be Kanha and Corbett for the kind of forest it is, for the kind of area it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And are there more, like your organization? Because, like you said, Kana and Sundarban similarly is
Mhm.
very secluded. You have to
Yeah.
go to Calcutta and then
Right.
take a drive there, and it's very
Not easy
dangerous
to get.
because they're all local villagers. Obviously, they know about the habitat, and you have to go with the local. So, are there more organizations like yourself, who promote such tourism and such wildlife? Because there are few now, but then
Yeah.
you see that
That
happening, growing?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, when we started, there wasn't anybody really at that point in time. There were just one or two more people apart from us. Internationally, yes, there were people who were promoting wildlife tourism in Africa. And whenever anybody thought of wildlife, they all thought about Africa. But that is what I was wanting to change, that, Indian wildlife, the flora and fauna here is equally rich, perhaps more in certain areas. You know, if you were to look at the big cats, we've got it all, perhaps except the cheetah. Cheetah is the only large mammal that we have lost in last 65 years. We've not, I mean, the kind of conservation that has gone into our system is absolutely amazing. So our numbers are actually growing. The tiger numbers are going up, lions are going up, rhinos are going up, elephants are going up, snow leopards are also going up, and this despite the fact that we are a 1.35 billion country. Not easy to digest. There are countries which are 1/5 our population, and they have no wildlife. you know so I think India has done remarkably well when it comes to wildlife. And my idea was that, let the world know what Indian wildlife is all about. So initially there weren't too many people, but along the way, yes, there were more organizations that came up and which are doing the same and which are doing a good job also.
All right. And tell us something about snow leopards, because since we're talking about big cats, so that's something that interests a lot of people. And how can we promote snow leopards with Indians? Because very few of them, like you said, we're getting there, but it's probably not so well promoted, heavily promoted as its counterpart, the tigers, of course, because they're more.
Yep.
Uh,
You know, uh, I'll be honest, not everything should be very heavily promoted also, especially if the numbers are less. Especially the habitat is very restricted. Snow leopard habitat is just in the Ladakh area, just in the Himachal area. So it's very limited. So if we heavily promote it, suddenly that place will get very busy and which will not be good eventually. Tigers have a very uniform presence from north to south, east to west, practically. So it's good to promote a species which is available, which is in most of the states. Snow leopards is for the hardcore people. Firstly, you've got to be physically fit. So not everybody, if somebody's saying that, okay, fine, I want to go for a snow leopard break. No, I mean, you need 10 days out straight. Out of which 2 days you need to acclimatize yourself at a certain altitude. So you're talking about serious safari business. It's about 12,000 feet and plus. And then going and coming there also takes a while. So if you were to go, suppose, to Lahore Spiti and this area in Kibber in Himachal, getting there is about 2.5 days. Coming back is another 2.5 days. Then you need another week to 8 days. So uh, you have to be physically fit. You have to have that kind of time. So it is possible to see, and yes, it is these days it's become easy. I wouldn't say easy, but yes, because now there are a lot of proficient naturalists and guides in most of the national parks. 20 years back, they weren't present, or if even if they knew, they did not know how to articulate themselves, how to interact with the tourist. But over a period of time, there have been some organizations, and who we have done a lot of training into the system in terms of guides and drivers being trained as to how do you communicate, how do you express yourself, what is it that you must say and do. So all that has helped, and today that knowledge that they had here is now being shared with a lot of people, and people are seeing a lot of wildlife very successfully, practically everywhere. A lot of people say, "Arey, Corbett mein kuch nahi dikhta hai." Every time I've gone to Corbett in the last 27 years, I've always seen a tiger, and very satisfying sightings. So you need to know how to go, when to go, where to go, with whom to go. That's the key.
Right. And how do you think hoteliers should promote wildlife? Since your hospitality is also close to your heart, but
Yep.
we're also hoteliers. So how do you suggest we do our bit in their promotion?
I think one is that, until and unless the respective chain is not serious about wildlife conservation, it shouldn't get into it, ideally. Because when a hotelier and a serious hotelier invests a lot of money, and if you see it as a business in terms of return, it's not so fast compared to a regular leisure destination or a regular corporate destination. It's slow. It's a seasonal business. The national parks are closed 3 to 4 months in a year. So if wildlife is not a very big part of your heart, if there is something that happens in wildlife, and if you are able to sleep that night, you should not be in wildlife tourism. So yes, hoteliers can get, if the respective chain or individual is very serious about nature and environment and climate change, you must get into it. You must play a part, and it's important that we get certain serious wildlife hoteliers into the business. The Taj safaris came in 2006. You know, and it's been about 15 years for them, and they're doing quite reasonably well in central India. And they have a place in Corbett, they have a place in Ranthambore, one in Gir. So there is scope. There is plenty of scope for some very serious hoteliers who want to say, okay, fine, this is in terms of our contribution to it, not necessarily making big buck out of it. Yes, if you're able to meet your expenses, if you're able to get the interest over your investment, I think you should be happy with it.
We should look at the bigger picture, is what you're trying to say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the greater goal of
Yeah,
conservation.
absolutely. I mean, conservation is the way forward. I mean, we are already facing this huge thing which is on our hands right now, the pandemic. And I was listening to Bill Gates the other day, and the fact is that there will be no vaccine for climate change. Pandemic, yes, there is a vaccine which has come. For climate change, there'll be no vaccine. We'll have to change ourselves. Give ourselves that shot of vaccine and work towards a better tomorrow.
Agree. And how yeah, there's another question. How do we can we incorporate a certain course for wildlife, you think, in our curriculum? Because outside there is a certain course that students can enroll in. Like how you have music as a field, you have arts and literature, but then in India we have to actually look for a vocational. Either we get into an agency as a protege, or as an apprentice. But how do you get into learning this particular area of interest, apart from doing the regular BCom and science and other bachelor hospitality? I mean, they're all accredited, but this one is not. So
There are certain institutes, for example, the Wildlife Institute of India. where you can go and do your bachelor's in environment and certain more serious courses when it comes to conservation, or masters as well. But yes, not very many people are aware of it as of now. So there is something in my mind. It's on paper as of now, and because coming from a hotelier background and working in environment for last 21 years, I'm already working on something similar. The land is being shortlisted, and if all goes well, in a couple of years' time, we should have some place, most likely in central India, which will be kind of an academy where you can come, understand nature, learn about it, work in nature, get a hands-on experience as well. So far, there is none. You're absolutely right. There is none. You know, so we're looking at things. You are right. Internationally, there are things which are available. Unfortunately, not in India. But I think if all goes well, a couple of years down the line, we will come up with something.
And do you think it can be part of the hotel school curriculum? Any way to incorporate that, or maybe in the hospitality? How
Yeah.
about hotels? That we've also started our Roseate Academy. It's in the plans, and Mr. Kapoor's already shared that. I'm sure you've seen it. But is there a way that we can also incorporate that in our curriculum? Maybe hotels who want to promote this, like even TAJ is doing wildlife safaris.
Yeah.
Maybe somehow.
Correct. It will have to be a mix of hotels plus environment, because because it has to be conservation through tourism. So that's where hotel and environment comes in together. Because once you're a trained hotelier who also is a very trained naturalist, then it becomes easy, to take that learning across, the teaching across to rest of the people around. So yes, it is definitely a part of it. And what the curriculum that I have made has hoteliering in a very big way and also nature together. So it'll be a wonderful handshake between the two. It can't be working independently. It's like nature can't say, I'm sorry, we don't need you. Hotels can't say that we don't need you. So it'll be a good handshake that we'll have. So it'll definitely be hoteliering and wildlife together, because currently in the hoteliering business, nobody is teaching you what wildlife is all about. In our times, which is way back in the previous century, we did not learn about national parks. But I was very happy when I saw that my daughter in her course was learning about national parks. But that's about it. It stops there. Nothing beyond that. So yes, I think hoteliering and wildlife together can be a wonderful course. Maybe me and Kush can discuss and take this forward.
Right. So moving over, quote unquote, it's better to be a tiger for one day than a sheep for 1,000 years. You've mentioned that. Of course, I'm just, quoting it from there. But tell us, why not a lion, cheetah, leopard, for that matter? Why only tiger? I know you're fascinated by the tiger, but why not the majestic lion? The territorial lion.
Well, you mentioned cheetah. Certainly. You mentioned cheetah, leopard. They're far inferior compared to a tiger. They're beautiful.
Why not lion? But
yeah. So coming to lion, lion is also equally majestic. Okay, but if you were to compare lion and tiger together on various aspects, tiger has an edge on all aspects, everything. When it comes to strength, when it comes to intelligence, when it comes to the bite, the tiger bite is about 1050 psi, lion is 650. When it comes to the size of the canines, the tiger is 3.5 inches plus, lion is just about 3. The jaws of tiger are far stronger. The hind legs of tiger are far stronger. Tiger can go vertical just taking a leap 15 feet. Lion can do just about 6 to 7 feet. So tiger is far more adaptable a cat, is the biggest cat, is the strongest cat. Hence, why not be the big and the best? That's why tiger. Why look at number 2? And there were plenty of lions even in central India in the previous century. I'm talking in the early or in the late 19th century. Tigers pushed them away. They moved and they just got stuck into one corner of India. Lions were even in North India. They were also in Uttar Pradesh. Tigers, so wherever tiger goes, lion goes away. So tiger is definitely far superior. The male lion is very majestic. Now, how does that happen? I mean, that is what I've spoken in my book, The Tiger CEO. What are those habits of a tiger? What is it that makes it so strong? Tiger spends 85% of his life alone, single, elusive. He stays in seclusion. Lion, lioness, they're part of a pride. They hunt together. Tiger hunts alone. And that's what makes him strong. His success percentage is less than 10%, but yet he gives in 100% every time. He's not dependent that, I mean, my sister will come and help me. As sub-adults, they might, but the moment they get on to and have their own territories, once they're adults, they're all on their own. Male tigers, always on their own. There is no family time for them. There is no work-life balance for them. It's just work. So life of a tiger is very, very tough. And that's what this book, The Tiger CEO is all about. So that's why I hope you, yeah.
That sounds like us hoteliers. We love our work and we're there around the clock.
Absolutely.
So, no, that's a lovely description that you give here, and very interesting, actually, food for thought. So tell us about your book. That brings us to your book, The Tiger CEO. Tell us a bit more about your book.
Yeah, okay. The first thought of doing something like this came way back in 2008 to me. And I started to pen down certain thoughts. And but then, then I got busy in my work and it kind of moved away. Then in 2014, I was very close to, I was very fortunate to have a sighting in Dudhwa National Park. Not sure how many audience here have heard about it. This is very close to Delhi, by the way, 7.5 hours drive from Delhi. Dudhwa, it's in Uttar Pradesh. Okay. I was there in the evening and I was looking for elephants. We finally found elephants on the third day. And it was very late in the evening and I also saw a tiger in the frame. Initially, I could not see with my naked eyes, but when I clicked with my camera and I zoomed in, I saw the tiger was crouching. He was taking on an elephant. There were 2 elephants and 1 young calf. The tiger was following them to hurt the calf and take him as a meal. And tigers have the potential to do it. So I got thinking, I mean, we were very fortunate there. We were there for half an hour, the only jeep, late evening. And I saw the whole battle. It was a mental combat between a tiger and the elephant, the 2 stalwarts of the forest, face to face, And then if you look at the sheer size of it, come on, man, this is 6,000 kilos. Tiger is 250 kilos. There is absolutely no match. Tiger did not give away an inch. The amount of courage that he has. And that got me thinking as to, what a quality. And then again, got into reading and read more and more about it. And then I realized, there is so much that we can actually learn from the tiger. And started to pen down the various qualities. So overall, then I was looking at things like tiger is right at the apex of the food chain in the forest. There is no other bigger predator in Indian forests. So if he's right at the helm of his affairs, I thought to call him the CEO of the forest would be quite apt. And as to what are the qualities that the tiger has, and started to pen down. And once I penned down, I started to see that, these are the qualities which all the successful CEOs have. So in this book of mine, I have compared or shared these qualities that, what are the qualities that keeps Elon Musk on top, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Mahatma Gandhi, going back to Chhatrapati Shivaji. So right from that time onwards, all the CEOs, so about 41 qualities, and this is how the book looks like, the Tiger CEO, So if you go through it, you would realize, pretty interesting. A lot of tiger books have been done, a couple of hundreds tiger books have been done, or maybe more, on the photography of a part of it, or what does he do, how long does he live, etc., etc. But not what we can learn from the management of a tiger. How does he manage his forest? A small little thing I'll share here. Tiger walks. He walks about 25, 30 kilometers a day. What does he do? He's just not passing time. He's keeping an eye on his market share, on his territory. Is there any intruder here trying to get into my environment, trying to get into my territory? He'll smell out his intruder. He'll track him down, extinguish him. If he feels that, this guy can be a threat tomorrow, get on face to face with him. So silence, stillness, seclusion are the 3 great qualities of a tiger. Doesn't talk unnecessarily like us. He will call only when it's required, when he has to make his presence felt. This is my territory. Or when he's looking for a mate, that's the time he calls. He goes about his business in silence. Solitude, as I shared, 80 to 85% of his life is in seclusion. So that is the price of greatness. Not only a tiger, but all the greats have done. So when Elon Musk says 120 hours a week, it's not easy. And it's not that you are doing it for 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month or 2 months. It's relentless, month after month, if you have to achieve something. And as also Kobe Bryant says, so if you are doing 6 training sessions in a day versus an athlete who's doing 2 training sessions in a day, in 6 months, what you would have achieved is what the other guy cannot achieve in next 3 years. So that is what working on yourself. We have potential. I mean, human beings are like rubber bands. The more you stretch, the more they hold. But our stretchability is very narrow, very less. We don't like to really give ourselves, more expansion. So that's what the book is all about. How to be an effective leader by embracing the tiger in you. We all have that tiger in us. We all have those qualities. It's just that, we've not thought it to be important enough to make it large.
No, sure. And what tips would you recommend to our viewers today, who want to get into entrepreneurship and new starters, and also the younger generation who seem like they have so many opportunities, but then can't decide?
Read. Readers become leaders. And a person who doesn't read is as good as a person who cannot read. These days, everything is so simple. Everything is on the net. You can do a PhD on a subject just by exploring the net. Elon Musk is not an astronaut. What is his qualification if you actually think? Is he qualified to land a shuttle on Mars? No, but he's doing it. Read. When you read about Elon Musk, you realize that he was reading 6-7 hours even when he was in school. And same goes even with other leaders, be it Bill Gates, be it anyone else. They read a lot, and that's where you can actually understand the world more and get about knowing your subject and what is a unique space that you can have. So reading is one that you can really think about. Hard work, as I said right in the beginning, there is no substitute for hard work. And I repeat, passion, talent and genius is common, but hard work beats talent. A simple example, Sachin Tendulkar and Vinod Kambli. I think Vinod Kambli was far more talented. Today his test average is more than Tendulkar, but Tendulkar was hardworking. He was putting in 8 hours of net even when he was not playing. Daily, relentless. Being relentless is another quality, that any entrepreneur must have. Being courageous. Fear is what we all have, and how a successful person or a successful entrepreneur handle his fear is what determines if whether you'll become a successful person or not. So it's all about handling of fear, having that quality, of courage and generating power out of your fear. If you start to think of, how do I become more powerful? Identify your biggest fears in life. That is where your biggest powers will come from. So hard work, being relentless, being courageous, being alone, reading a lot.
I have one more tiger question.
Yep.
We have a lot of varieties of tigers. You've got white tigers and you've got I think the yellow or the orange version. I mean, what's the main difference? Is there any difference, or is it because of the melanin, or is it because of, the pigmentation? Anything in particular?
Well, the white tiger is also the Royal Bengal tiger. It's the same tiger. It's the question about leopards. Like certain leopards become black. It's about one, that pigment which is over. And in white tiger, there is one gene which is mute. That's about it. They are identical. They are the same. There is absolutely no difference. And the white tigers that you see today in the zoos, only in the zoos, unfortunately now, The last one was caught in India in Bandhavgarh National Park in the late 50s. His name was Mohan. He was caught by Maharaja of Rewa, and he captured him and alive. And all the white tigers that you see today are all his progenies. So it is the same species, Royal Bengal tiger. There's no difference. There are certain black tigers also in Orissa. They're not purely black, very, very dark pigmentation. Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions from the audience, Mr. Vats, that I want to ask you before we call it a day. We have a question that somebody's asked. What is your biggest motivation? What motivates you? And how do you define success?
Wonderful. Great question. What motivates me? Reading motivates me a lot, honestly. At any given time, I have at least 2-3 books which I'm reading simultaneously. So reading motivates a lot. And it's like you need to bathe every day, you need to motivate yourself every day. And motivation is, has to come in internally. So when you get inspired by reading, surround yourself with the right company. Our willpower determines where we can get in times to come. So company is stronger than your willpower. So what company you keep? So by company, I don't mean of course, the people that you have, but what you see on television, what is around you, all that is company, 360 degrees. So if you keep the right company, and if you are able to inspire yourself, yes, you will be able to make it big. Success is, in my opinion, if you set out in life to get something, whether it is materialistic or immaterialistic, and if you attain that in some ways by making somebody else happy, not disturbing people, not making or cutting people off, but overall, if there is positivity in your endeavor to do things going forward, I think that is success. I mean, I would like to call Tata's a very successful group today. They do it so well, the kind of charity that they've been doing, and they've been doing it for decades. So when you get something, share with the world, that is also success. Share your not only monetary stuff, but whatever wisdom that you have acquired over a period of time, share all that. Share, putting a smile on somebody's face is also success.
Well, that was, I think, the last question we had, Mr. Vats. To our audience, I would like to say, in case you want to buy Mr. Vats' book, it's available on Amazon, of course.
It is. That's the one.
In case, there you go, the Tiger CEO. And if you'd like to, inquire about his endeavors and, his future projects, his email ID is Sharad at naturesafariindia.com. So I'll put it in the chat box as well. And of course, before we sign off, I would like everyone to follow our social media pages, Roseate House and Roseate Hotels and Resorts. And if you're posting about today's episode, please use the hashtag Roseate Speaks. Thank you so much, Mr. Vats, for your time again. And we hope to, have more sessions with you in the coming future on Roseate Speaks.
Certainly, my pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much. Signing off.
Wonderful. Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.